The twin suns burned above the alien city of Careth Prime, painting the dust-filled streets in red and gold. Smoke and cries filled the air as hundreds of traders shouted prices, showing off cages filled with slaves from different worlds. The market of lost souls, they called it, a place where even hope was sold and forgotten. A small alien girl stood near the end of the line. Her skin shimmered faintly silver under the light, though dirt covered most of it. Her thin arms trembled as she held the iron bars of her cage. She looked no older than 16 human years, her eyes wide and shining faintly blue, like stars that had lost their way. "Worthless," shouted one trader, slamming his metal stick against the cage. "This one can't lift a weapon, can't mine ore, can't even stand without shaking." Laughter broke from the crowd. Some aliens pointed, others turned away. No one wanted her. She was too small, too weak, too quiet. But one person didn't laugh. A human man stood in the shadows, wearing a brown cloak dusted from travel. His name was Captain Ryan Hale, a wanderer known among smugglers for buying strange things. Old tech, broken machines, once even a crashed starship's AI core. But never a person. He watched the girl with quiet eyes. She didn't beg like the others. She didn't cry. She just stood still, her head slightly bowed, her gaze fixed on the sky, as if waiting for something that would never come. The trader shouted again. "No bids, come on. 50 credits. 30, 10. Still no one raised a hand. The crowd had already moved to the next cage, where a tall, muscular alien was being shown off as a fighter. 5 credits. The trader barked in frustration. "Fine, 1. 1 credit and she's yours." Silence. Then someone threw a piece of trash at her cage. "Not worth feeding." A voice sneered. "She'll die before reaching the ship." The trader sighed, shaking his head. "All right then, worthless. Take her away. To the pits." The pits meant one thing: death. As 2 guards approached to drag the cage away, Ryan stepped forward. "Wait," the crowd turned. "A human here?" He spoke calmly, his voice cutting through the noise. "I'll take her." The trader blinked, unsure if he heard right. "You, a human? She's damaged goods." Ryan tossed a few coins on the table. "That should cover it." The trader grinned greedily. "She's yours, fool." He unlocked the cage, shoving the girl forward. She stumbled but didn't fall. Ryan caught her arm gently to steady her. Her skin was cold, trembling under his touch. She looked up at him for the first time. Those blue eyes, soft and shining, met his. No words, just a silent question, "Why?" Ryan didn't answer. He just wrapped his cloak around her shoulders and said, "You're safe now." The trader laughed as Ryan led her away. "Safe? Not for long, human. You'll regret buying that one." But Ryan didn't look back. He guided her through the dusty streets, past the noise of the market, toward the edge of the spaceport where his ship waited. The horizon. As they reached the ramp, the girl stopped and looked once more at the city behind her. The wind carried the cries of others still trapped in cages. She closed her eyes, whispering something softly in her alien tongue. A word that sounded like a prayer, or maybe a goodbye. Ryan didn't understand, but he felt its weight. When they entered the ship, the engines came to life with a low hum, lights flickering faintly. For a moment it seemed as if the girl's presence had changed something inside. The ship felt warmer, more alive. As they lifted off, the market below grew smaller and smaller, until it was just a blur of red dust and fading light. Ryan looked at the girl sitting quietly in the co-pilot's seat. He didn't know her story. He only knew one thing: he had bought something no one else wanted. And deep down, he felt that choice would change everything. The ship Horizon drifted through the silent void, its engines humming softly as it left the desert world of Careth Prime behind. Inside the metal corridors, the faint sound of breathing was the only sign of life. Ryan walked slowly toward the small cabin where the alien girl sat. She had not moved since they lifted off. Her silver skin shimmered faintly under the ship's lights, her knees drawn close, her eyes fixed on the stars outside the viewing glass. "Hungry?" Ryan asked, setting a tray of food on the table. A cup of warm broth, a few protein wafers. Nothing fancy, but better than what she had before. The girl didn't look at him, didn't blink, just stared into space, as if the stars were whispering secrets only she could hear. Ryan sighed quietly. He wasn't good at this, not at comforting people, not at saving anyone. He was a scavenger, not a hero. Yet something about her silence made him stay. Hours passed. The hum of the engines filled the air like a heartbeat. Ryan worked at the controls, checking navigation, pretending not to notice that she hadn't moved an inch. Then, in the middle of the night, he heard a sound, a soft, low humming. It wasn't the ship's systems. It came from the corridor leading to the engine room. He followed the sound quietly, his hand near the holster at his side. When he reached the doorway, he froze. The girl was there, standing in front of the ship's reactor core. Her hands hovered just above the metal surface, and tiny sparks of blue light danced between her fingertips and the machine. The reactor, usually dull and steady, pulsed like a living thing, matching the rhythm of her hum. "Hey," Ryan called out softly. She stopped. The lights flickered, then went dark. For a second, the ship's power dipped, then stabilized again. She turned toward him slowly, her eyes glowing faintly. "I'm sorry," she whispered, the first words he had heard from her. Her voice was fragile, like wind on glass. Ryan stepped closer. "You were fixing it?" She shook her head. "It called me," he frowned. "The engine called you?" She hesitated, then nodded. "It speaks, it's alive in a way. I can hear its voice." Ryan didn't understand, but he could feel the truth in her tone. She wasn't lying. She was something else, or something rare. "What's your name?" he asked quietly. She looked down. "Lyra. Lyra," he repeated. The name sounded like music. "I'm Ryan." She didn't answer. Her eyes were on the glowing core again. "You shouldn't have bought me," she said softly. "They'll come for me. They always do." "Who?" "The hunters," she whispered. "The ones who destroyed my world. They can sense my energy. No matter where I go, they find me." Ryan crossed his arms, thinking, "Well, they'll have to go through me first." She looked at him sharply, almost angry. "You don't understand. I bring danger. Everyone who helps me dies." Ryan met her gaze, calm but firm. "Then I'll die on my terms, not theirs." For a long time, neither of them spoke. The stars drifted outside like ghosts. Finally, Lyra turned away, her voice soft again. "You're foolish, human." "Maybe," Ryan said, half smiling. "But I'm the foolish man who saved you." She blinked at that. Something changed in her eyes. The faintest spark of trust, like light breaking through clouds. When she returned to her seat, Ryan adjusted the ship's course toward the outer colonies. He didn't know why he cared so much. Maybe it was the way she looked at the stars, as if she had once belonged among them. In the control room, the lights dimmed briefly, then glowed brighter. The hum of the ship deepened, warmer, alive. Ryan smiled faintly. "Guess the ship likes you too." Lyra said nothing. But for the first time, she didn't look sad. Outside, the stars shimmered, and somewhere far away, something dark stirred. Following the trace of her energy through space, the hunt had already begun. The horizon floated through the endless sea of stars, quiet and steady. Days had passed since Ryan rescued Lyra from the slave market, but the silence between them still hung heavy in the air. He didn't push her to talk. He knew broken souls needed time, but Ryan had seen enough wars to recognize pain when it sat across from him. Lyra wasn't just afraid. She was haunted. She spent most of her time near the viewing glass, watching the nebula clouds drift past. Sometimes she traced glowing patterns in the air with her fingers, faint trails of blue light following her movements. They looked like symbols, language from another world. One evening, Ryan brought her a small device. "It's a translator," he said. "Might make talking easier." Lyra hesitated, then took it with trembling hands. The moment her fingers touched the metal, the device glowed and synced instantly. "It understands me," she said quietly. Ryan leaned against the wall. "You've got quite the gift, huh?" Her eyes flickered toward him. "It's not a gift. It's a curse," Ryan frowned. "You said you were hunted. Tell me why." Lyra's gaze fell to her lap. "I was born on Oralis, a planet of light and sound. My people, the Auralites, could merge with energy. Machines, engines, even stars. We became part of what we touched. But the Syndicate came. They learned they could use us to power their ships, their weapons." Her voice trembled. "They harvested my people, turned them into batteries." Ryan felt a cold weight in his chest. And you escaped? She nodded. I was only a child. I hid in a wreck, thought I was safe. But they found me. They sold me again and again until no one wanted me anymore. For a long time, the only sound was the hum of the ship. Ryan looked out the window at the swirling stars. So that's what you meant back there, when you said they'll come for you. Lyra nodded weakly. They always find what they want. And when they do, they'll take you too. Ryan gave a dry smile. I've been hunted before. I'm still here, she blinked, surprised. Why help me? You don't even know me. He looked at her, his voice low. Because no one deserves to be treated like cargo. Lyra stared at him for a moment, then turned away. Her voice softened. You'll regret it. Before Ryan could answer, the console beeped sharply. A red warning flashed across the screen. Syndicate patrol detected. Lyra froze. They found me. Ryan jumped into the pilot's seat. Hold on. He slammed the controls, and the horizon dove into a cloud of asteroids. Beams of red light sliced through the darkness as the enemy ships fired. The hull shook violently. Can you mask our signal? He shouted. Lyra's eyes glowed. Yes, but it will hurt. Do it. She closed her eyes, pressing her palms against the control panel. Streams of blue light burst from her fingertips, spreading through the circuits. The entire ship trembled as energy surged. The sound of the engines deepened, almost like a heartbeat. Outside, the patrol scanners blinked, then went blind. The ship vanished from detection. After several tense minutes, the radar went clear. The patrol moved on. Silence returned. Lyra slumped in her chair, breathing hard. Her skin dimmed, the light in her veins fading. Ryan caught her before she fell. Hey, stay with me! Her voice was weak. I hid us. They won't find us now. He set her down gently, his jaw tightening. You shouldn't have pushed yourself like that. Lyra smiled faintly, her eyes half closed. You said no one's property on your ship. Ryan looked at her, his expression softening. And I meant it. She studied him for a long second, the man who could have sold her for profit, yet chose to protect her instead. For the first time since her world fell, she felt something strange, something warm. Thank you, Ryan, she whispered. He stood, adjusting the ship's course into deep space. Rest, Lyra, I'll keep you safe. That's a promise, and somewhere in the darkness behind them, the Syndicate ships turned. Their scanners alive again, following the faint trail of energy left in her wake. The hunt wasn't over. It had only just begun. The void stretched endless before them, black and silent like a graveyard for forgotten stars. The horizon glided through it, small and alone. Ryan had turned off every unnecessary system to keep their signal low. For 3 days they hadn't spoken much. Lyra sat quietly by the viewing glass, her silver hair falling over her face. The faint blue light in her veins had dimmed since she masked the ship's signal. She looked weaker, like a fading candle. Ryan brought her a mug of warm liquid. You need to drink. She smiled faintly but shook her head. Energy, not food. I feed on light. He stared for a moment, then nodded and adjusted the ship's panels, opening the upper shutters. Sunlight from a distant star spilled through, bathing her in gold and blue. For a moment her skin shimmered like crystal. Better? He asked. She breathed deeply, eyes half closed. Yes, it feels like home. Ryan smiled, but it didn't last long. The ship's console beeped, softly at first, then sharper. The radar flashed red. Incoming signals detected. Multiple ships. Ryan's jaw tightened. They found us again. Lyra stood, panic flickering in her eyes. It's the Syndicate. I can feel them. They're calling to my energy. How many? 5. Maybe more. Ryan cursed under his breath. We're not fighting in open space. We need cover. He scanned the map and spotted a nearby dead moon. No atmosphere, no life, no sensors. Hold tight. The horizon dove toward the gray surface, kicking up dust as it landed in a deep crater. The engines went silent. Only the heartbeat of the cooling reactor echoed inside the hull. Ryan grabbed his blaster, checking the charge. We'll hide until they pass. But Lyra looked pale, her light dimming again. They won't pass, she whispered. They always follow. Ryan crouched beside her. Then we'll make them regret it. She met his gaze, a mixture of fear and trust. Why do you keep risking yourself? He shrugged. Because someone once risked their life for me when I didn't deserve it. Guess I'm paying it forward. A faint smile touched her lips. Humans are strange. Before Ryan could answer, a deep rumble shook the ground. He ran to the viewing screen. In the distance, lights glowed across the dark plain, syndicate ships descending like vultures. They're scanning the surface, Lyra said softly. They'll find us soon. Ryan's mind raced. He checked the power readings. Low. They couldn't fly, not without exposing her energy again. Then, from behind them, came a loud metallic crack. The floor trembled. Rocks above them shifted and crashed down. Ryan grabbed Lyra, pulling her out of the way as part of the roof caved in. Dust filled the air. You okay? He coughed. She nodded weakly. A sharp cut marked her arm, glowing faintly blue instead of red. Ryan wrapped a band around it. Hold on, I'll fix this. But before he could move, the radar beeped again, closer now. A blip, moving directly toward them. Lyra closed her eyes, whispering something in her alien tongue. Suddenly, a pulse of energy burst from her skin, lighting the dark cave like lightning. For a second, everything froze. Even time seemed to stop. Then the rocks around them shifted back, the cracks sealing themselves as if rewound. Ryan stared in awe. You just saved us, her voice was trembling. I used too much. They'll feel it. Outside, the night sky flared red, syndicate ships turning sharply toward their location. They've found us, Ryan muttered. Lyra swayed, falling against him. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to. He caught her before she hit the floor. Don't apologize. You kept us alive. That's what matters. He carried her back to the cockpit, setting her down in the co-pilot seat. Through the window, the dark horizon burned with approaching lights. Ryan's hand tightened around the controls. His voice was steady now. They want a fight. They'll get one. And above the crater, shadows of syndicate warships moved through the dust, hunting the last Auralite, unaware that the human beside her was willing to face death itself to protect her. The ground shook as syndicate warships descended through the gray sky. Red lights pierced the dust clouds, scanning for life. Ryan watched from the cockpit window, his jaw tight, eyes cold with focus. He'd fought pirates, smugglers, even bounty hunters, but this was different. These weren't men chasing profit. They were executioners. Lyra sat weakly in the co-pilot's seat, her silver skin pale, her blue light flickering like a candle about to die. Ryan, her voice trembled, you can't fight them. There are too many. Ryan adjusted the targeting controls. We're not fighting to win, Lyra. We're fighting to live. Outside, the syndicate ships spread across the crater's rim. Sleek black vessels marked with glowing red symbols. Loudspeakers echoed through the dust. Surrender the Auralite, human. You will be spared. Ryan flipped a switch. They don't know me very well. The horizon's cannons hummed to life, charged by what little energy remained. The ship wasn't made for combat, but Ryan had modified it with scavenged weaponry over the years. Improvised, unpredictable, just like him. He looked at Lyra. You said you can merge with machines, right? She nodded faintly. Yes, but it's dangerous. If I connect too deeply, I could lose myself. Then we make it count, he said. You're not dying here. Not today. Lyra hesitated, staring into his determined eyes. No fear, no doubt. Just the strange, steady faith of a man who refused to let her be a victim. She closed her eyes and pressed her glowing hands against the console. A surge of light burst from her palms, racing through every wire and panel of the ship. The horizon trembled, engines roaring like thunder. The metal walls shimmered, alive with blue light. Ryan's screens flooded with new data, systems responding faster, sensors sharper. It was as if the ship had awakened. You did it, he breathed. I am the ship now, Lyra whispered, her voice echoing through the speakers, layered with static and light. Outside, the syndicate ships fired first. Beams of red plasma sliced through the air. Ryan rolled the horizon sideways, dust exploding beneath them. The ship shot upward like a bird breaking free from its cage. Let's dance, Ryan muttered. He dove between enemy fire, firing counterblasts. 2 ships exploded instantly, consumed by blue flame. The others followed close, forming a deadly formation. Lyra's voice guided him. Left now. "There's one behind you, count a spin." He obeyed, trusting her completely. The horizon twisted through the battlefield like it was part of her body, smooth, alive, impossible to predict. Inside, energy crackled across every surface. Lyra's form glowed faintly within the core chamber, her light pulsing in rhythm with the engine. But each burst drained her more. Her body trembled. "Ryan?" she whispered through the comm. "I can't hold it much longer." "Just a little more," he yelled, banking hard. "We take out their command ship, then we're free." He lined up his sights on the lead vessel. Its cannons glowed bright, preparing to fire. Now Lyra. A burst of light erupted from the horizon, brighter than a star. The energy waves slammed into the Syndicate fleet, shattering metal and fire across the sky. The explosion painted the moon's surface blue and red. When the light faded, silence followed. Every Syndicate ship was gone, reduced to drifting ashes. Ryan's chest heaved as he checked the controls. The systems flickered weakly. "Lyra, we did it." No answer. He ran to the core chamber. Lyra lay on the floor, her body fading to translucent light. "Hey, stay with me," he said, kneeling beside her. "You're okay." Her lips curved into a small smile. "I told you I'd bring danger. You also brought us victory," he said, his voice rough. "You saved both of us." Her hand touched his cheek, cold but soft. "Promise me one thing," she whispered. "Don't forget me when the stars go quiet." Ryan held her hand tight. "I'll never forget you." Her glow faded, and the light of the ship dimmed. The engines sighed to silence. Outside, the stars burned faintly in the stillness, witnesses to the battle between a hunted girl and the man who refused to let her die forgotten. The crater was quiet now. No more smoke, no more fire. Just silence and drifting ash glowing faintly in the pale light of the dead moon. The battle was over, but victory felt hollow. Ryan stood beside the broken core of the horizon. The ship that once pulsed with Lyra's light now lay dark and lifeless, the metal still warm from her energy. The air smelled of ozone and loss. He touched the console where her handprint still glowed faintly, a ghost of light slowly fading away. "Lyra," he whispered, his voice barely holding steady. There was no answer. Only the low hum of a dying reactor, like a heartbeat struggling to go on. He searched the ship for hours, checking every chamber, every wire, hoping to find even a flicker of her presence. But she was gone, dissolved into the machine, leaving behind only the soft glow of blue dust across the floor. Ryan sat on the metal steps, hands pressed against his face. "You saved me," he muttered, "and I couldn't save you." His mind drifted back to her last words. "Don't forget me when the stars go quiet." He looked up through the cracked ceiling of the ship. The stars were still there, cold, distant, endless. For the first time in years, Ryan felt small. Not the captain of a ship, not a survivor, just a man sitting in the ruins of something beautiful he couldn't protect. He buried what was left of Lyra, a small crystalline shard that once held her core light, at the edge of the crater. The ground was hard and dry, but he carved a mark above it with his knife, a circle of stars, the symbol of Oralis. When he finished, he sat beside it for a long time, watching the distant horizon fade from gray to black. "You weren't broken," he said softly. "You were the most alive being I ever met." A soft wind blew across the crater, whispering through the metal wreckage. For a second, he could almost hear her humming, the same tune she sang when she first touched the reactor. He smiled sadly. "I hear you," he said. "Guess you're keeping your promise." After hours of silence, he rose and walked back to the ship. The horizon was half destroyed, but Ryan wasn't ready to give up. He worked for days, repairing circuits, patching hull plates, connecting shattered wires with trembling hands. He talked to her while he worked as if she were still there. "You'd probably laugh at how bad I am at this," he said once, wiping sweat from his brow. "But I'm learning. You taught me that, didn't you? Never stop trying." When he powered the reactor again, the ship groaned. Lights flickered once, twice, then steadied. For a brief moment, the blue glow returned to the core chamber. Ryan froze. "Lyra," he whispered. A faint pulse of light shimmered across the control board. The rhythm was unmistakable, slow, gentle like her heartbeat. He smiled through tears. "You're still here, aren't you?" No voice answered, but the lights pulsed again like a nod. Ryan placed his hand over the console. "You saved me, Lyra. You saved everyone you could. I'll keep flying, and I'll make sure the stars remember your name." He lifted off slowly, the horizon rising from the crater like a ghost reborn. The engines, once silent, now hummed softly, the same sound she made when she was alive. As the ship broke free from the moon's surface, the carved circle of stars below caught the light of the distant sun, glowing bright for one last moment. Ryan looked back once. "Rest now," he whispered. "You're free." The stars stretched before him, endless and unknown. But this time, he didn't feel alone. Somewhere in the hum of the engines, in the flicker of the lights, in the gentle rhythm of the stars outside, he could still hear her. And maybe that was enough. Years passed, but the legend of the horizon never faded. Pilots whispered about a ghost ship that appeared when all hope was lost. A glowing vessel drifting through storms of space, guided by a soft blue light and the haunting hum of a woman's song. Some called it superstition, others swore they'd seen it. The spirit of the horizon, saving lost freighters and damaged cruisers, vanishing into the stars before anyone could thank it. But only one man knew the truth. Captain Ryan Hale still flew the horizon, though it was no longer the same ship it once was. The hull bore the scars of that terrible battle. The metal was blackened and rough, but the lights, faint and blue, still pulsed softly, like a heartbeat. He sat in the pilot's chair, watching the distant shimmer of a nebula. His beard was thicker now, hair streaked with grey, but his eyes were still sharp. On the dashboard rested a small crystal shard, Lyra's core. Whenever he touched it, the ship responded with a quiet vibration, as if acknowledging his presence. "Another storm coming," Ryan muttered, adjusting the stabilizers. "You feel that, Lyra?" The console lights flickered twice like a reply. He smiled faintly. "Still with me, huh?" Outside, a distress signal flashed on the radar. A mining ship was trapped inside a gravity field near the edge of a dying star. Without help, they'd be torn apart. Ryan didn't hesitate. "Looks like we've got work to do." The horizon dove through the debris field, engines burning with blue light. As it neared the doomed vessel, the communication channel filled with static and frantic voices. "Unknown ship, this is Miner's Hope. Our reactor's collapsing. We can't break free." Ryan pressed the comm. "Hold tight. You're not dying today." He flipped a series of switches, guiding the horizon closer. The gravity waves tore at the hull, shaking the ship violently. Sparks burst from the panels, but Ryan's hands were steady, and the blue light around him glowed brighter, flowing like living energy through the walls. He could feel her. Lyra. Her voice echoed faintly in his mind, not words, but emotion. Calm, steady. She was there, guiding him like she always had. "I know," he whispered. "We've done this before." The horizon extended its magnetic field, wrapping around the mining ship. Engines roared, metal screamed, but slowly, painfully, the smaller vessel broke free from the pull of the dying star. Cheers erupted through the comms. "Whoever you are, thank you." "How did you—" Ryan smiled faintly. "Just an old ship with a good co-pilot." Before they could reply, he cut the transmission. The horizon turned, drifting back into the starfield, disappearing into the dark. When the silence returned, Ryan leaned back in his seat. "You still saving people, huh, Lyra? Even now?" The ship hummed gently in response, the same melody she once sang in the engine room. Ryan looked out at the endless stars. "You know," he said softly, "they talk about us now. Say a human and a light spirit protect travelers. Guess they're not wrong." He placed his hand on the console. "You changed everything. Not just for me, for anyone who believes even the smallest life has value." A faint flicker danced across the ship's interior, lights glowing in the shape of a human silhouette, standing by his side. He turned slightly, but she was gone. Still, he smiled. He didn't need to see her. He already knew. The stars stretched endlessly ahead, a river of light across the black sea of the universe. Ryan set a new course toward an unexplored system where no map dared to go. "Let's find somewhere new," he murmured. "A place worthy of your name." The horizon's engines flared blue, casting a soft glow that shimmered through the void. For a moment, it looked less like a machine and more like a living spirit soaring across the stars. And long after it vanished, those who traveled that sector would swear they could still hear her voice, soft, melodic, eternal. No one is worthless, not while someone remembers. And so the legend lived on, of the alien girl sold for nothing, and the human who changed everything.